So Lawrence touched upon it a little bit as far as some of the guys that came before him. And we mentioned Brad Van Pelt, who the Giants took in the 1973 draft in the second round. Well, they decided to dip back into the linebacker pool in the 14th round. And they took a guy out of Cal Lutheran who wound up playing 143 games for the New York Football Giants. Please welcome Brian Kelly.
Wow.
Thank you. Harry. Hi, people. Hi, fans. The best in the world.
And in 1975, the Giants, with the modest 11th round pick out of the University of Oregon, selected a player who wound up scoring 7 touchdowns as a defensive end in his career. Please welcome George Martin. We got to get Lawrence Taylor back out here for Brian Kelly.
Right on cue.
All right, Brian. Brian, I'm going to start with you because
No. I can't believe it. That's the nicest things he's ever done.
I'm going to start with you here, Brian, on one thing. You got drafted in '73 by the Giants, and Giants started the season in Yankee Stadium. So your first year, you get to play in Yankee Stadium, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, can't stay here. You got to go to the Yale Bowl. So then you go to the Yale Bowl for a year and a half, and then you wind up having to play in 1975 in Shea Stadium.
Beautiful place.
Before Giant Stadium opened up in 1976. What was that experience like for you, trying to make a ball club and wind up having 3 different homes in the span of a couple of years?
Well, you know, coming from a small school, California Lutheran, you think, what do you want? I don't trust him. Anyway, you think you're coming to a, professional football.
I'm a fact checker.
And so you think you're coming to, great, facilities and everything like that. Well, we started out, I don't know if Harry or George remembers it, we started out in Roosevelt Stadium in Jersey City, New Jersey. Now, I don't know if you guys remember Roosevelt Stadium, but it was the armpit of the world, I'm telling you. And I'm walking down on practice field. I said, this is the pros and stuff. And then end up going to Yankee Stadium, which was quite a thrill for me. Coming from Cal Lutheran, going to New York, which I had no idea who the coach was and who played for New York and everything. But I found out very quickly, about New York, not only the football team, but the baseball team, because obviously we were playing in Yankee Stadium. But it was quite an experience, and as far as the team, we really sucked. But I mean, to be honest, we had probably bad coaching, bad GM, bad offense, bad defense, bad players. I have to be honest, it just wasn't working in the early 70s. You want to say something? Okay. So it was quite an experience going to 4 different stadiums in a matter, I think, 4 years or something like that. But anyway, okay.
There you go.
That work for you?
George, you're an 11th round pick. You come into this madhouse as well. What was it like playing with these guys?
Well, first of all, it was a rude awakening because I had these aspirations to go into professional athletics, but I was a basketball player, so I wanted to go into basketball. So when I came to the Giants, my expectations were I don't belong here because these guys are professional, athletes, and they can move mountains. Well, it didn't take me long to find out that they ain't moving no mountains in New York. So the indoctrination for me was really a rude awakening because I got there and I found out that these guys were relatively human. And the fact that I had played basketball gave me an advantage because I had some quickness and I had some mobility that some of the offensive linemen did not have. And it didn't take me long to although there was a learning curve, it didn't take me long to acclimate to the professional level.
Lawrence, what'd you learn from that guy? And what'd you learn from this guy?
What did I learn from who?
Well, let's start with George, because I know it's probably better.
Absolutely nothing.
Attaboy, babe.
LT's back.
It's a great friend. Okay, but he can't tell me.
I will tell you this, however. I learned a hell of a lot from him as to what not to do.
Yes. Wow.
Oh, boy.
Very good point, George.
Hey, but listen, hey, the linebacking crew, Harry Carson, Brian Kelly, you got to understand, because
Slow white guy. Go ahead.
no, you slow. But you slow, but hey, you got knowledge. You actually know what we call it defense. You actually know what we're supposed to be playing. I don't know.
I'm telling you, honest to truth. We'd set up, and I'd call the defensive signal, and we'd break the huddle, and I'd line up in my position, and all of a sudden I hear psst, 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 and I look over, and the LT goes, "What do I do?" And I go, "You rush the passer." And so now I think everything's set and everything, and I line up and get ready to make the play or anything, and all of a sudden I hear psst, psst, psst. It's Brad Van Pelt. Brad Van Pelt would sleep through half the meetings. This is a true story. This is true. This happened
not as smart
almost
as
every time after the huddle.
The
on
truth
field.
is coming out now.
What'd you say here?
I said the truth is coming out now.
But we created defenses, though. LT created defenses.
We played well together, me and Harry, because, hey, I say I'm gonna be inside, and you supposed to be outside, or you go outside, or I'll go outside and you go inside. There was no talking to you because you thought you were smarter than everybody.
All right.
No, I got to ask Phil a question.
Smarter than everybody.
Well, all right, we're here from the defensive side of the ball. Phil, what was it like going against these guys in practice every day? How did you get anything done?
Excuse me.
Well, we had a lot of good players in offense, and they couldn't hit me, so I didn't care. And listen, for everybody out there, for all those years, it was live almost every day with them. I would hand the ball off and go, "Oh my God, thank God I'm not getting hit today." But one guy that always wanted to hit me was Lawrence Taylor. One day he just goes, "Sims, just once." And I said, "Yeah, I know, but you can't." It was great. But no, it was great. The energy, just think what we did in practice. Well, not we, really the line and everybody else. I was just handing the ball off or whatever. But going against that group was real. It was unbelievable. And just to think, every time we'd go play a game, we were actually going against a lesser group than we practiced against. So that was a tremendous thing for our team. The last thing is, Lawrence, when George Martin made that great interception against John Elway at Giant Stadium in '86, Lawrence was running down the field begging, "Give me the ball, give me the ball." And George, you were great. You said, "No way." And I
didn't think he would ever make it to the goal line.
Well, wait. It was like 70 yards. We know you couldn't have run that far. So,
I wasn't drinking that night. Thank you.
I'm going to write a book. I told Lawrence, he wrote a book once, had all these stories in it. And I said, "Tim, you left out the best stuff." He goes, "Well, what?" And I tell him what he left out. He goes, "Damn, I should have called you." So I'm going to use them when I write a book here in about 2 years. And you won't believe them, really. You won't even believe it. I got so many of them, it's unbelievable.
Well, we got more time, and we're gonna transition.
No, I can't. I couldn't do it. There's young kids out here.
Yeah, that's true. But Brian, just quickly, Brian, really quickly. You played with Bob Tucker. You played with John Mendenhall, Spider Lockhart, and you were around Emlyn Tunnell, who was a coach your first year with the Giants. What was it like? And Andy Robustelli was the team president at the time. As you guys came, what was it? What did you learn from those players, the greats that came before you?
I think with me, they were guys who I respected, but they weren't very successful on the field. And, there were times when I sort of wanted out because the team just wasn't producing. There were planes flying overhead with the banners, people were burning their tickets and so forth. And I just decided, just walk off the field, and if I ask myself, did I do my best, then it's out of my hands.
Brian.
Well, wait a second. Don't forget, remember you want to become a pilot?
Well, yeah.
In the Air Force?
Well, I did.
You became a pilot? And
No. I wanted to fly. I had
that one?
I had a military background in my family, and I wanted to eventually go to.
You wanted to leave the Giants.
I wanted to leave the Giants, and I wanted to. I
airline
wanted to fly. Yeah,
Oh, you wanted to leave the Giants to go fly a kite?
fly planes.
All right.
No.
Oh man.
So let's get some more of your teammates out here because we're gonna move into the 80s. So this guy joined the Giants in 1984, spent 5 years with the Giants, came from the Naval Academy, and obviously very famous for waving a white towel. Phil McConkey.
Hey.
Giants drafted this player in 1982 out of Syracuse. In 1985, he had 21 rushing touchdowns. He set the franchise record for rushing yards in 1986. And at the time that he finished playing with the New York Football Giants, he was the franchise's all-time leading receiver. Please welcome Joe Morris. Although he was drafted by the Cardinals and was an outstanding player, in 1986, the Giants made a trade. And he did score a touchdown in Super Bowl 21, but he won the most valuable player of Super Bowl 25. Please welcome Otis Anderson. Otis!
Okay.
So we got a lot of defense and some offense. In 1985, the Giants wanted to add a little spark to their offense. So they looked in the 4th round to Notre Dame and they said, you know what, we'll take this guy, Mark Bavaro. So we got LT, we got Carson, we got Kelly, we got Van Pelt. Looked pretty good at the linebacker position. But with the 3rd overall pick in the 1984 draft, the Giants said, let's get some more. And he was voted to the Pro Football Hall of Fame All-Decade Team of the 80s. Please welcome Carl Banks. I don't even know where to start. This is so good. Phil, I introduced you first. So what was it like playing with this cast of characters?
You know, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I was a lowly special teams guy. I'm like many of you that's sitting out there, just had a dream of playing on a pro football team. So for me to be up here, to be a small part of something, it's really a testament to what Wellington Mara built, back then. Bill Parcells, they understood that everyone is important, right? Leadership is about the ability to convince others that they can get more out of themselves than they think they have to give. And that's the kind of leadership that we had. And they understood that, a lowly punt returner is important because, you fumble the ball, Lawrence and Harry and George and all these great defensive players have to come back on the field. So, I was never afraid of getting hit, catching punts. I was afraid of losing the ball and watching these guys come back on the field. That was pretty intimidating. But I do have to say, it all started with Wellington Mara, what an incredible leader. And, I feel, a little kinship there. We were both naval officers, right? I'm nowhere near as heroic as Wellington. He fought in World War II. He was a naval officer on an aircraft carrier. I mean, part of the greatest generation. And when I got here, I was a lieutenant, one rank below what he was in the Navy, a lieutenant commander, and he called me commander when I first got here. So I got a promotion. I made the team. He started calling me captain. Never Phil, never McConkey. It was commander, then captain. We win the Super Bowl. Admiral McConkey, man, he pinned it right on me. And he called me Admiral and never called me anything else. But in 1987, we went on strike. He was none too pleased. And when I got back, he knocked me back down to captain. I earned my way back to Admiral after a little bit of time, but enjoying that relationship with him through our Navy ties.
Joe, drafted in '82, and they kept drafting running backs trying to replace you. What finally clicked for you and those suburbanites to be the dominant force that you were for those years? Admiral, give him the mic.
I think that what happened is we believed in ourselves for the first time. We were able to protect Phil Simms, which was very important to us. Thank you. But the guys up front, me and Phil challenged them every week in the weight room. If your quarterback and your running back are stronger than you better pick it up. And trust me and Phil were busting our butts. And we worked out with those guys. We did their program, not our program, to make them stronger, because we understood that. Because in order to be a good, strong team, you need strong offensive linemen. Everybody got stronger and better being challenged by Phil Simms, his leadership, and me saying, okay, guys, I'm doing this. I'm doing 500 pounds. Who's going to join me?
Yeah.
Mark, you come in 1985, and the Giants had won a playoff game in '84, and you're coming to a team now that's stacked, and you got to go and practice live, and you got to deal with Lawrence Taylor, and you got to deal with Carl Banks. What were your first? Yeah, Mark, what were your first impressions when you came to New York and found out you were going to be a Giant, and then have to deal with these guys in practice?
I was terrified, They were big guys. I had seen them. I came here to play with Notre Dame. We played somebody in the Giant Stadium, and we saw these guys come out on a Friday practice, and they were just enormous. And I was like, "Wow, is that like the offensive linemen?" Or they go, "No, those are the linebackers." So I was like, I hope to God if I ever get drafted, I don't get drafted on this team. And that's exactly where I went. But you know what? It really made me a better player. I was an okay player, but I think it made me a pretty good player, playing against Carl Banks and Lawrence Taylor, Andy Hedden, Byron Hunt.
Yeah, and the list
all those
goes
guys,
on.
yeah.
Gary Reasons, the whole group.
Gary Reasons, yeah.
Pepper Johnson.
Pepper.
We keep going. All right, Carl, and I want to get Lawrence and Brian's reaction to all this, but Carl, they're loaded. They're loaded at linebacker.
Yep.
What was it like walking into that locker room with Lawrence Taylor sitting there and Harry Carson and all these other guys?
I can tell this story. I'm drafted. My first day in the Giants locker room, there's sitting on crates, Harry Carson and Lawrence Taylor. Now, they had just lost two of their linebacker mates who were all pros, Kelly and Van Pelt. I'm this bright-eyed kid from Flint, Michigan. I go up, hey, Mr. Taylor, hey, Mr. Carson. Lawrence in his signature, what up, homeboy? I said, that's cool. And then Harry looks at me, and he says, so what the hell are you going to do to get on the football field? And I'm like, oh, this is serious. And
It's unbelievable.
I'm not on this stage if it's not for Harry and Lawrence, number one. But my first practice, Lawrence Taylor practiced faster than I ever played in college. It's like trying to merge on Audubon in a Volkswagen. I'm watching him. I'm like, whoo, I'm going to have to get my game together. But to be able to not only merge with these guys, but to be able to hold my own and be a contributor is what that's why I'm here, because of them. And I got one more that I'm going to tell about Harry and why he's our captain for life. Young linebacker. I'm this young linebacker, and we're playing the Washington Redskins. Harry's got a cutoff T-shirt on, and he goes to me
and Gary reasons. He says, come go with me. We literally are in shorts and T-shirts. We walk through the Washington Redskins offensive line. They're in warm-ups. We walk through their offensive line to George Rogers, and Harry says, homeboy, you're going to fumble twice today. We turn around and we walk back to the locker room. Not a single Redskin did anything. And guess what? George Rogers fumbled twice that day. That's why he's my captain for life.
Otis, you win Rookie of the Year with the Cardinals, so you had to play against these guys. And then miraculously in 1986, you get traded to these guys, and then you go on to be the Super Bowl MVP. What was it like for you? Carl just gave us his come to Jesus moment walking in that locker. What was it like for you after playing against these guys for those years?
First of all,
You bring me out and you put me by the guys who chased me all my life. You sit me down. Harry was one of the most intimidating linebackers I've ever seen before in my life. He used to tell me all the time that I would tip plays by looking where I was running. I say, no, Harry, I was looking where I thought you were going to be at. Then you got Brian Kelly, linebacker in the middle. If I ran from Harry, I'd run into him. And if I didn't run into him, I'd see George. And then at the end, you get this young baby guy right here at the end chasing me. So what did I do to deserve to be sitting down here with all defensive players? And you put Joe Mars back there, you put McConkey back there. But I would prefer to have been back there where I felt warm. I'm just saying, it's, being in St. Louis and playing against these guys, every day you had to wear your hard hat. So when I was called upon to play, it was like me playing against them, practice, because I played against them, so it was easy for me to be ready when I needed to spare Joe.
OJ, we sat you there because we knew you could handle it, all right? We just need you to warm up the arm a little bit, all right? Warm up the soup bone a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
All right, you've gone against these guys in practice. You probably played against some of them, too. Who hit you the hardest?
Harry. Harry by far. But I told John Mara at their golf tournament that he did something for me that I was very happy and proud of. So I'm going to share that with you guys tonight. In Super Bowl 25, these guys left me in Tampa, okay? I had to go to Disney to do the spot. They fly back together. They get a convoy of cars all the way to the stadium, everybody yelling and screaming their name. I'm in Tampa, okay? Now, I'm thinking I'm MVP of the Super Bowl. They're flying me back. I'm by myself. I know when I get off the plane, standing there at the gate, we're going to be tons of people saying, OJ, great job. We love you, man, right? So I get off the plane. No one is there. Hey, maybe they had baggage claim. So I know that there are people going to be waiting for me at baggage claim. So I go to baggage claim. One guy, a black dude, and he does what all the brothers do when they see each other. So I never experienced the celebration of being an MVP and fan support. Can y'all give me love? Yeah! That's it. That's it. That's it.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right, from one MVP to another one, Phil, let's talk about handing the ball off to a guy like that, handing the ball off to Joe, throwing it to Mark, throwing it to Phil. What was it like playing with these guys?
Well, it's great. Everyone had a great role. Of course, OJ, great pass protector. He had this thing he'd learned in St. Louis. When he was a play action pass, he would go out. When he was open, what would you do, OJ? Woo, woo. And What's really amazing, when I heard it, I just turned and threw it to him. And Phil McConkey, very underrated as a receiver. And, I always thought he would run out on the field before the game and wave that towel. And I go, man, we don't do that stuff on this team. And I was like, and then I was close enough one day, Parcells goes, all right, McConkey, go out there and get him going. Let's go. So I didn't know Bill was telling you to do it. But Joe Morris was the workhorse for us in 1986. He wasn't good. He was great. The whole year. I mean, my God, we play teams, and I just go, they got to stop the run. I mean, that's what Joe's on that sweep. It was unbelievable. And I would hand it off, of course, and enjoy the ride and watch him do what he did. So it was really tremendous. And Mark Bavaro, I told Mark this, yes. We created passes that people copied in the league. Just throw it. Well, here's the story. I'm watching the preseason game against Pittsburgh. Bill Parcells is in there, and he goes, Sims, why didn't you throw it to Bavaro? And I said, I got upset, and I said, I won't say exactly what I said. He's covered. And he goes, Sims, you just don't understand. When he's covered, he's open. And that just shows you how bad I understood it. And really, it created this thing. When he was covered, I just would throw it. He would turn and catch it, go down and catch it. Wherever I threw it, he was going to catch it. And it was awesome. So that...
Mark, how'd you feel about that? You were open even when you weren't.
Yes.
It wasn't my job to throw me the ball.
That's a great line.
Oh, that's the best.
A man, a few words.
But it summed it up, though. Lawrence, we'll wrap this part of it up with you here in the sense that Phil came in 79, you came in 81. You won in the playoffs in 84. Obviously, Phil had dealt with a lot of injuries. When did you realize that this is a guy that can lead us to a championship?
Phil's a great player. Okay? But like I told Phil for a long time, he wanted to daggone throw the ball 100 yards downfield and have the wide receiver catch it and everybody be celebrating. But you got a guy here 10 yards downfield, he's open. Throw the ball to him. Let's move the ball. And I used to tell him this all the time. And he was like, hey, you want a quarterback? No. But hey, and it wasn't until 83 that you became a player. All right. Well, there go, listen, we going out here, listen, hey, we ain't going out here. We coming with Phil Sims. We're not bringing Scott. We're not even putting Scott Bruner on the daggone on the bus. No, we ain't doing that. Come on, say something.
I can't.
Oh, yes, you can.
Lawrence actually thinks, well, never mind. He straightened me out.
No, it ain't that straighten you out. I gave you some friendly advice.
There you go. Okay.
If you want to stay on this team, this is what you got to do.
Okay.
Bill, it never ends, does it? That camaraderie with all this stuff, it will never stop, will it?
No, it'll never stop. Listen, Lawrence, Harry, I don't know as much as Harry, George, everybody, Brian Kelly. God knows what you guys were doing. I don't even want to know. All I know is Lawrence would leave the locker room in some leather outfit after practice and just go, damn, that's ugly. And he would leave, and the next morning, as we were there at 7 to 9 having meetings, and the team had to meet at 9, the door would fly open at 1 minute till 9, and Lawrence would stand there like this, and I would look at him, and I go, rough night? And he would say, you just can't believe it. Wait.
All right. You know.
What I'd never experienced, what all you guys were seeing in the team meeting rooms with the defense. So I can't even imagine what the hell that was like. But
Well, the one thing that
great.
A lot of sleeping.
they all,
Yeah.
the great champions of the New York Football Giants. So it was a long time from 1956 to 1986 and then 1990. And then there was the build-up to the last two Super Bowls. So let's bring in some of the guys that helped create the foundation and carry on the Giants tradition. He was drafted in the second round in 1994 out of USC. Finished his career with 19 interceptions and has one of the most iconic plays in Giants Stadium history. Please welcome Jason Sehorn. There's a theme here because he was a second-round pick, and our next guest was also a second-round pick in 1996 out of the University of Michigan. Did a really good job returning punts, and then he found his footing and played in 190 games and is the Giants' all-time leading receiver. Please welcome Amani Toomer. Follow the theme. Our next guest also was a second-round draft pick in 1997 out of the University of Virginia. Started as a punt returner and a situational back, and arguably has the greatest 5 years of any running back in the history of the National Football League that's in the Hall of Fame. His last 5 years match up to anybody's. Over 10,000 yards rushing, and the franchise's all-time leading rusher. Please welcome Tiki Barber. And of course, we got to get Michael Strahan back up here. We got to get Mike back up here too, with his crew. All right, guys. We have Michael here? Oh, there he is, Michael. We already introduced him, but there he is, the Hall of Famer. All-time
Thank you, Bob. Thank you for forgetting me back there.
At
least I get a comfortable seat. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, there you go. All right, we'll start. Let's start with you, Jason. Obviously, you come to the Giants. You're from California. You're a California kid. As you come to this franchise, what's going through your mind moving east and playing for one of the storied franchises in the league?
I was miserable. I'd never been to the East Coast. California kid, sunshine, 70 every day. You come here and there's actual winter and humidity. I think the humidity kind of hit me harder because I'd seen snow before. I'd never experienced humidity. So when I got here in August, that hurt. Yeah. There's no welcome party for humidity.
And we're taking a look at the play against the Philadelphia Eagles, which is an absolute thing of beauty as the Giants beat the Eagles in that 2000 postseason game. Amani, you also came from California growing up. De La Salle High School out there in the Bay Area, played at Michigan. How hard was it kind of fitting in, coming to a franchise that's known to run the ball a little bit more than throw it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I was happy to be in New York, but I wanted to, catch the ball a little bit more. But, you make do with what you got, and I was just really happy to play for an organization that had the reputation that it had in terms of, scrolling through a Super Bowl every 5 years. So I figured I'd play here, go to a couple Super Bowls, and it ended up turning out to be all right.
Yeah, look at you, Bavaro's. No, I didn't know Bavaro returned punts too. It's pretty good. Tiki, you come in '97. The Giants actually made it to the postseason that year, and Jason, you were part of that team as well. What was it like for you coming to a franchise that had this tradition of the Joe Morrises and the Otis Andersons and the Frank Giffords and some of the great runners?
Well, when I first got here, Joe was checking our socks on the sideline, trying to find us.
I forgot about that.
But it was, you know what? I grew up a Redskins fan because I was from Virginia. Exactly. Charlie Cashley, their general manager, came to my pro day, and he said, "Teak, my kids love you, but we can't draft you because we have too many running backs." And I told him, "You're going to regret it." All my 200-yard games came against the Redskins. So I've learned to love history, and learning the history of the Giants was one of the great things that I've ever been privileged to do in my life. And then the Mara family, who is obviously sitting here at the tables, they become like family, as has the Tisch family, Bob and Wellington, where they took me under their wings, and it made me feel like a New Yorker, and I loved it every minute of my time as a Giant.
Michael, having been drafted out of Texas Southern in '93, you got a chance to play with Lawrence and play with Phil. Giants did go to the postseason that year, won a home playoff game. But now the roster was starting to turn over. You guys wound up winning the division, 10-5-1 in '97. But these were your part of your core. What was it about these guys as you kind of all grew up together that impressed you the most?
You know, it's really weird because I sit up here and I realize, and I know we got another group coming, that I stuck around long enough to basically play in 3 different eras, and I learned something in each one. So, I mean, I'm looking at these highlights of these guys, and I'm going, damn, everybody's really good. Really, really good. But I learned more about how to be a pro when I walked into the locker room with these guys here. It was like about work and dedication and your best foot forward and literally watching guys every day show up and practice 100%, or whenever LT did show up, he went 100%. But I learned from that. I really did that. In practice, you go hard, it makes the games easy. And then when I'm sitting here with these guys in the 2000s, I mean, Jason Sehorn's the best athlete I've ever played with. Like, I've never seen anybody do the things that he could do on the football field. Amani Toomer was consistent for years at a tough position where it's hard to stick around for that long. But you know, Giants all-time leading receiver for a reason. Tiki Barber, I mean, what can be said? He carried our team offensively for years, and you'd hand him the ball, and it was like, watch Tiki run. So these guys made me feel like I always had to show up and be accountable, and I learned how to work from these guys, and I learned, you know, how to be a good teammate and be accountable from everyone else.
I want to ask you about the 4 of you, Jason, Amani, Tiki, and Michael. 2000, you guys are playing in the NFC Championship game, and most of these guys were there on the sideline. A lot of these guys were in attendance, the greats that came before you. What was it like to have that presence around you guys that lifted you to win an NFC Championship and inspire you and understand the history of what the New York Giants were all about?
I think understanding the history helps when you look at people on the sideline who are supporting you and showing up, especially at those big moments, because they've already done that. Like, they've been there, they've done that. And so when you see the support from the people who set the foundation before you actually arrived, supporting you, it gives you a whole lot more confidence. And it's a whole lot of fun to look to the sideline and see these guys, you know, on the sideline, because they're not there very often. They're not there for a regular game. You know, it's the big ones that they show up for. And you remember the biggest part of everything is what happens in the playoffs. And you also remember who set the foundation for you there.
Monty, how about for you? Because, right, I mean, you guys throwing the ball all over the place. Everybody said, yeah, not supposed to be throwing the ball. The Giants have to run the ball to win.
Yeah, no, I remember I actually got hurt the week before against the Eagles, and I'm sitting on the training table, and Sean Payton comes up to me. He was like, I just watched the film, and I'll tell you what, you better get ready because we're putting the ball up in the air. And I remember just being so excited. I had a swollen ankle, and I did something to my knee. And I remember I said, Coach, I'm going to be fine. I walked off the table, and I started hopping on with one leg. I'm like, Coach, I'm going to be ready. Look at this. And it was a spectacular day. And I'll never forget LT and all the greats waving the white towels when we walked out. It was electric. I've never seen the stadium like that before. And because of that, we destroyed, the Vikings 41, and they still talk about that game. They still talk about 41 Donut up in Minnesota. I'll tell you that. But it was very special, and I'll never forget that. That was the best home game I can ever remember. The energy in that stadium.
How about for you, Tiki?
So there's a couple of things. So you saw earlier Greg Camella catching that first touchdown pass. We ran that play all the time. He was basically the decoy. We're not throwing it to you, but go clear out everything else and see what happens. And Kerry threw it to him, and he landed on his ass, and he had this massive hematoma. Massive.
It was a bruise if you don't know what hematoma
is. My bad. He had a massive bruise on his butt.
I gotta translate for Tiki sometimes. He gets into his doctor speech. It's a bruise, bro.
Right, it's a bruise.
Is this UVA in Michigan?
But I played that game with a broken arm.
A broken forearm, guys.
I played that game with a broken forearm, and I did it against the Cowboys. Philippi Sparks, so you guys remember, he hit me as I scored a touchdown.
He was on the Cowboys then, sorry.
At the Cowboys then, and he
Felipe
broke my
was.
arm. And I remember going, and Ronnie Barnes and I had this conversation just a couple weeks ago. Dr. Warren came into the training room and was like, Teak, we got to do surgery. Your season's done. And I said, Doc, that's not a blanket option. I think this team can go far. And so we came up with a novel solution. They created this carbon graphite cast for me to wear. So I took the week of practice off and played in the divisional round and ultimately in the championship game, which I didn't do anything in, but I was able to play in the Super Bowl. And I just remember, man, I'm going to get a chance to play in the Super Bowl. I'm going to get a chance to do an iconic thing for this Giants team, this fan base. And you're right, Amani. The crowd was unreal that day.
Oh, and by the way, this is one of the toughest players I've ever played with, because when he did have that broken arm, the next game he goes in and somebody's going to tackle him. And what did he do? He forearmed him with a broken arm. And I'm like, Tiki, bro, what are you doing? Tiki, he was, don't let the smooth taste fool you. This is a tough cat right here.
Sometimes I'm smart. A lot of times I'm stupid.
Varro, the broken jaw, Lawrence with the harness, Tiki with there's a lot of Carl Banks with the thumb in 1990 and the wrist, the right. I mean, it's kind of what the Giants are all about, isn't it?
Yeah. Can I say something now?
Yes.
This team that went to Super Bowl 2000, I'm watching this. We got to give it up for Jim Fossil. Rest in peace to Jim Fossil. I mean, he was a hell of a coach. He was a hell of a coach, and we won division championship, went to that Super Bowl with him, and I know we didn't win it all, but he was a big part of changing the culture of the organization. And he pushed them all in the middle of the table. I think he was watching Kenny, what's his name, the gambler, Kenny Rogers, and he got a little excited. But I think that inspired all of us. And but yeah, these guys were fun, man. It was just magical. And that 41-0 game, I realized we were gonna win. You know how I knew we were gonna win before the game even started? Because Randy Moss was arguing with our security, trying to get Lil Wayne and the Cash Money crew onto the field for pregame. I'm like, who in the hell is worried about a rapper right now? Like, no way. And it just kept rolling, and we didn't let up. And I remember all these guys with the towels, and they wanted a shutout. Like, we want the shutout, and we wanted to give it to them. So I'm glad we were able to do that part.
Yeah. And like Bill Belichick with these guys, you guys had a great defensive coordinator in John Fox, who really brought you guys together. And Sean Payton, you mentioned, Tiki, but Coach Fossil also had a brilliant defensive coordinator in Coach Fox. Let's move on to that next era of Super Bowl champions. All right. We mentioned Eli came in 2004 with the Giants' second-round pick in 2004. They selected a player out of Boston College who played 10 years and 141 games and was a key member of that Giants offensive line. Please welcome Chris Snee. So, you got to draft guys, but you also have to find guys. And that's also a very important component of things. So, in 2010, Giants had a local tryout. They liked this kid from Patterson who played at UMass. Injured in 2010, but 2011, by need, he had his breakout game in Philadelphia, and then he salsaed his way to a Super Bowl championship. Victor Cruz. We talked about the linebackers, right? And drafting a Carl Banks, and the Giants were loaded with linebackers. Well, Ernie Accorsi, the general manager, said you can never have enough pass rushers. So with Strahan there and OC there and a lot of good pass rushers, Ernie Accorsi said, you know what? We're taking Justin Tuck out of Notre Dame. Please welcome Justin Tuck. The man who sacked Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl, not once, but twice. And obviously, like Phil, you can't get it done without a quarterback. And a two-time Super Bowl MVP, Eli Manning, is back with us. All right, Sean, you started right now. These are your guys, man. What made this group so special?
Well, first of all, I want to start off with it was the torch that was passed on by all these guys right here. Eli joked earlier on about how he used to play video games with all y'all in it. We all did that. Like, you guys set the stage for all of us, and we all tried to build off of what you built yourselves. George, I remember you coming and talk to the team, you and Howard Cross, and talking about how important it was to be a Giant and how important it was to carry on that tradition and that standard of excellence. So, for my brothers over there, I feel like we'll start with Super Bowl 42. That game played out the exact way we had it prepped all week long, right? That was exactly the way we practiced it. We knew exactly how that was going to end up. Eli, why don't you take us through the best play that I think we all can remember from that game?
Well, first off, I want to thank you and Chris for not blocking anybody on that play. I mean, what the hell? What were y'all doing?
Knew that was coming.
Snee, you were in there like, you did not touch one person. You're just like, I almost threw you the ball. You were standing right in front of me. You're like looking at me like, I'm open. I'm like, you're not supposed to be doing this. But, and then, it worked up just like Coach Coughlin, drew it up. He said, no one block anybody. Eli, be the great athlete that you are. Run around, break a couple tackles, and then throw it to Tyree's helmet in the middle of the field, surrounded by 3 or 4 defensive players. And it worked. It worked.
Amen. Now, while we were doing all that on offense, Stray, you guys were getting after a TB, and I'll never forget when Coach Coughlin came in on his Wednesday meeting. He had his 25 keys to victory, and by the end of the year, it was like 50 keys. But the number one thing he said is, we're going to hit Tom Brady. We're going to hit him on every single play. Spags talking to you guys about that too. Take us into that defensive meeting room and your guys' mindset as you went against the number one offense in the league that year.
I don't think we weren't scared. I mean, it's funny, you get a lot of Giants fans run up and say, I knew you were going to win that Super Bowl. Stop lying. I mean, I didn't even believe my parents when they were like, you're going to win. No, I think we believed it because we were so confident and we had hit our stride that no one could block us. And we can put any combination that we wanted and no one could block it. Tuck was the most dominant one of us because he could play inside and outside. So you line him up on a guard or center, no one could block him. You put us at end with me and OC, no one could block us one-on-one. So it was great to have that kind of confidence in each other, but everybody was really relaxed, almost too relaxed. I'm like, I'm year 15. We can't screw this up. I don't have another shot. But the guys came through it. I mean, Tuck had a monster game as always, and it was just one of those things where there's one time in my career I can remember being on the field where all 11 guys were locked in. Like there are games you got 2, 3, 4, 5 at the most. all 11 locked in. And then on offense, from how they performed, they were locked in. So it was a special experience to be on the field and, oh, I didn't get to Brady, but then he's on the ground, and I look up, and he's getting up. OC's getting up. You know, Alfred's getting up. Fred Robbins is getting up. Kavika Mitchell, like everybody was hitting him. So it was just a thing of confidence, and they played us at the wrong time for them and the right time for us.
Hey, Justin, I want to ask you this because, talk about that game and all that, but what you learned from being around these guys and how that inspired you and helped you become a better player.
Yeah, listen, I consider myself one of the luckiest people alive because I'm a kid from Kelson, Alabama, and when I walked into the Giants organization, I had people like Michael Strahan there. And honestly, me and Stray, we
Now,
we made a bet.
We were backstage. We made an agreement. We're not going to come out here and talk about each other.
Wait. We made a bet backstairs. I'm going to be nice. So I'm going to tell you the nice parts about Strahan. One thing that he did for me was he allowed me to just watch him. And I don't think a lot of these young players do enough of that. And he talked about what LT meant to him, what Carl Banks meant to him. And that's just been passed down in what it means to be a Giant. And as I'm sitting on this stage and I'm seeing all these Giants, right, that's what it's always been about. So when I came in, I just watched him, and no one outworked him. Everybody thinks Michael is this talented, just uber talented, strong, which he is. But the reason why Michael was Michael is because me and Osa used to have plots of trying to kick him out of the league. Am I lying?
No, because you would tell me you're trying to kick me out the league.
We made up a song about kicking Michael Strahan out of the league.
I want to hear it. Sing it for us.
Long time ago.
No.
No.
I want you to show them how you used to tell me you're going to kick me out the league.
Well, I think this is where Strahan got that whole stomp you out thing because me and Osa used to walk behind him and just go like, get out. and to be very honest with you, we could never get rid of him.
He
left on his own accord.
Can I tell them the response?
Listen, man, it's your show. Go ahead.
Like LT told me in the back when he was right. He said, I gave you your job, which he's right when he retired. And I told Tuck, I love you.
I still hate him to this day for this, by the way.
But you will always be my backup as long as I decide to play football.
See, and my get back to that is I used to be a really good basketball player, and my dad was a really good basketball player too. And he would always beat me until that day when he knew he couldn't beat me anymore. And when he knew he couldn't beat me anymore, he stopped playing me. So that's Michael Strahan. When he knew I finally had him,
oh, that's great.
He retired. He quit. But on a serious note, man, that's the only reason why I had success in this league, man. I got to watch all these Giants do it the right way, not only on the field, but just what it means to be a Giant in the community, what it means to be a hard worker in the weight room. Like, me and Osh used to try to, run. We used to run down running backs in practice and, look at Shrey so that because he couldn't do that. He was old then, and he couldn't do that type of stuff. But he damn sure tried. And he would just be in the weight room. We'd think we'd be doing something because we'd get there early. Well, Michael might not get there early, but he stayed later than anybody. And this is a story. This is a true story. And I don't even know if Michael knows this. I had to stay longer at the stadium for a media thing or something. And I happened to be walking back during the stadium. It's probably 5:30, 6 o'clock, and nobody's in the weight room, and Michael's in there working out by himself. That's why these guys are so great. Everybody just thinks oh yeah, LT just showed up and was just, Carl Banks just showed up. Eli just showed up. And they probably showed up at the stadium on Sundays like that, but these guys work their butts off to be who they are. Tiki Barber worked their butts off to be who they are. LT just showed up.
He was that good.
Well, we got to go back further. Maybe I used that wrong.
Yeah, he was
at
that
16,
good.
he didn't show up.
Every once in a while, you get one of those players who just shows up, and he's just better than everybody else. What y'all playing? Okay, I want to play. and he's just better than everybody else. Yeah, he just showed
Well,
up.
for the other 99 of us, we didn't show up. I mean, we worked our ass off, and that's what I learned from these guys, Bob. That's a long way to answer
But
that
he
question.
did work hard, though.
Yeah,
He
100.
He practiced hard.
So, Chris, Phil and Joe and that first Super Bowl team had the Suburbanites, an offensive line that was a tremendous performance and the sum of the parts, which made them great. And their running game was dominant. And then it transformed in Super Bowl 25 for OJ. They add Jumbo Elliott to the mix, and got Doug Riesenberg at right tackle. And then again, not all household names. Bart Oates was the constant as the center. So now you come to the Giants, and when you think about Super Bowl 42 and the run that you had in 04, 05, 06, 7, 8, dominant. 2011, again, the running game. What was it like for you knowing that there was big shoes to fill when you got drafted to come with something that had already been set forth in a template for?
Well, I had a couple of things to deal with when I got drafted here. Obviously, reestablishing the O-line, but the relationship with Coach Coughlin. So I had a lot on my plate at the time. So, but coming, I knew the history of the Giants. I knew what they wanted to do, how they won games in the past, how the games were going to be won under Coach Coughlin. So, coming in the same year as Sean, Richie Soybert was there already, Deal was there already, Kareem came in 05. So, slowly piecing together that O-line with, I think what just made us special was we all had the same purpose every day. We had the same vision. And honestly, we had the same fear. We never wanted to let each other down. So, we busted our ass. And I think what helped us too was having to go against guys like, Stray, Osi, Tuck, Freddie Robbins, Cofield. I mean, Tuck likes to bust my balls about the brother-in-law treatment, Freddie and I had in one-on-one pass pro. But
tell him the agreement, though.
That was special.
In all
That was
seriousness,
special. They made a lot of noises and didn't do it.
But when we practiced, we practiced. We got after each other. And I think that's what made us successful. And we were out there together. Like the bumps, the bruises, we pushed through those. We wanted to be out there. We wanted to grind through. And Ronnie, I don't know what Tuck's talking about. He didn't practice very much, so you can credit. He wasn't tracking down running backs in practice. Come on now.
Yeah, right.
But that
neither was
we took pride in running the ball. We really did. Moving the guy across from you against their wills. There's no better feeling.
Victor, what about for you? I mean, you weren't drafted. You're a free agent. You're a local guy. And, you got hurt. You got hurt, and, 2011, you got a chance. Dropped that third down pass in Washington in the opener. Next thing you know, Brandon Stokely's here, and they're thinking, well, maybe that could. And then you got your chance against the Eagles when they had what they called, like, the dream team. And you just shredded them, and then the rest was history. Well, what was that journey like for you?
It was actually incredible for me just to, I had to just work hard to just garner the respect of someone like Eli, right? I think, stories like Eli calling me up in the offseason prior to that year and it being a lockout, and I was the only one local. I was the only one that was able to come throw with him, and now we end up in a dog park in Hoboken, New Jersey, throwing the ball around. And shout out to Jersey, everybody in here from New Jersey, of course. But I think it was that early, relationship and that early just conversation of him not only just throwing me footballs, but giving me a piece of the offense, telling me what he liked in certain plays, what he's looking for, and that kind of gave me a little bit of a head start. So you fast forward to the Philadelphia game, and now I'm looking around, and I think I was the only guy that had been there that long, and we had a couple injuries, and I think coach was looking at me like, all right, we're going to start you, but don't F this up, okay? And I got in there, and 3 catches and 100 yards later and 2 touchdowns, the legend was born. And the salsa dance later, the legend was born.
Eli, I just want to ask you, because Phil talked about, finding Bavaro and throwing it to him even when he was covered. And, McConkey and the things that he, 4th and 17 in Minnesota, Bobby Johnson, that great story, 1986. And you reminded Bobby Johnson, as you tell the story, it's you. What did you tell Bobby Johnson before 4th and 17?
Well, I said, look, Bobby, be alert. I might have to throw it to you in desperation, basically. So McConkey was covered, and I forgot who the other receiver was at the time, but Bobby Johnson. And you know, if that play was in today's world, it would have been incomplete. Because if you watch it, Bobby Johnson didn't get both feet down. He went to put one down and missed it and stepped out of bounds, which would be appropriate for Bobby. He was really tremendous, but, well, Lawrence would know. Lawrence had to give him a speech after that 49-3 game we had in '86 against the 49ers.
Hey, Eli, little different, but just about Cruz and Plexico and Amani, the all-time leading receiver, and then coming along with Nix and Manningham, and Jake Ballard and Kevin Boss having to come off the bench in '07 when Shockey got hurt in the Super Bowl, and Ballard with those catches in New England. Working with those guys, I mean, as Phil talked about bringing his guys together, how did you bring it all together?
Well, it's just going out there. I mean, obviously having great veterans like Amani. When I got into the NFL, Amani was here. Amani was the ultimate worker out of practice every day, a guy who just worked on his craft. He was, very just disciplined on his route running, going the right distances, doing everything. No one had better feet on the sideline than Amani Toomer. I think down in Green Bay in the playoffs, down that left sideline, making that catch, always dragging the feet, just unbelievable catches all over the end zone, back at end zones, and so he was unbelievable. Then Victor Cruz came along. Victor, really, we didn't run that many plays with Victor, and a lot of the plays, he had so many options where he could break in, he could break out, he could post it, he could, run a spray 9 and just get to the sideline where for a lot of plays, it was just kind of, hey, look at Victor. He's going to run a route. We don't know what it is quite yet, but once he gets 10 yards down the field, he's just going to get open. It was almost street ball, but there was rules to it, but he just mastered it, and we would talk about it all the time. He'd come back with ideas and say, hey, if they run this way, I'm going to fake in and break out if it's two-man, but I'll only do it if it's two-man. If it's regular man, I won't do it. And he could see all these things. He could see the coverages.
I was just as confused as you guys are right now. Yeah.
But he got it done, and he made big plays. It's amazing. In practice, he ran like a 4.9, but on game day, he ran a 4.6. I never seen anything like it.
True story.
It's when you're being chased. Somehow, I'm from Paterson, New Jersey, so I'm used to being chased. Okay, and when you're being chased, you figure out how to run fast on game days. All right.
Wow.
All right. So yeah, go ahead, George.
Bob, could I take a commercial break just for a second, please? Yeah. I think it bears making the statement because all of us here have had very illustrious careers, and we've had a common denominator that I think we've overlooked, and I'd just like to acknowledge it, if you will, because we've talked about some of the injuries that we've had and had to overcome. We've talked about some of the obstacles that we had to overcome, and I think at this point it would be very appropriate to acknowledge the head trainer of the New York Football Giants.
Ronnie Barnes.
Is sitting in the audience.
Ronnie. Stand up, Ronnie. Stand up.
Ronnie. Ronnie Barnes.
George, that was perfect. That was a perfect way to end that segment. So on Giants.com, there's been fan voting over the last 2 months or so as we've tried to identify the greatest play in Giants history. I mean, how do you find a singular greatest play in a franchise that's had 99 years of success and 8 championships and so many Hall of Famers in those busts you saw? But as voted on by the fans and presented by Hackensack Meridian Health, let's take a look at what has come down to the greatest play in the history of the New York Football Giants.
17-14, fellas. 1 touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Giants down by 4, 14-10. 3rd and 5 from their own 44.
You've got a stomach for high drama. This is it. Doesn't get any better than this.
Manning takes the snap. Back to throw. Under pressure, avoids the rush, and he's going to fight out of it. Still fights out of it. Now throws it deep downfield. Tyree, who makes the catch at the 22-yard line. What a play by Manning. He eluded 3 sacks. And what a catch by Tyree with 58 seconds to go. Tyree had Harrison all over him. The ball was on his helmet, but he got his other hand on it and pulled it in. What a catch by Tyree.
Oh, what a play by the quarterback.
Let's welcome the man who not only made the catch, but was also a Pro Bowler on special teams and caught a touchdown pass early in the fourth quarter to give the Giants the lead in that game. Please welcome David Tyree. So, David, the fans have spoken. A lot of great competition. The 3rd and 13 play made it deep. Pavaro's catch against the 49ers and Lawrence's pick 6 against the Lions on Thanksgiving Day and a million more plays. How does it feel to have the greatest play in the history of a franchise about to celebrate its 100th year?
You know, being a kid from Jersey, looking at the contingent of legacy that sits in this room, and I was born in 1980, and that was a time where the 49ers ruled the world. And I grew up a 49er fan. The irony that I would be amongst the greatest, but I can tell you what, when Wellington Mara and this amazing franchise chose me as a scrawny little special teams player, we don't know where he is as a wide receiver, and I didn't know where I was either. But, and I realized what this organization was. This is a dream come true, and a dream that I couldn't have dreamed myself, to be amongst this amazing legacy of the New York Football Giants. And I tell you, when they wrote me that check for $27,000, man, I was a Giants fan for life.
Wow, amazing.
Boy, Eli, that blocking story you told really showed in that video.
Wow.
Shut it, Bob.
What were you doing, Snee?
Wow.
You know what? You know who deserves an assist on that play is referee Mike Carey for not calling you in the grass and blowing the play dead. So kudos to Mike Carey. You know, yeah, and a horse collar, right? So we've celebrated 100 years, and obviously there's all these legendary players and champions that are here. But as we mentioned at the beginning of the night, the Giant fans are the true champions with the support of this franchise for now going on 100 years. And it is with great pleasure that I bring to the stage a man who served this country in World War II. He's a native of Middletown, New Jersey. And on June the 5th, he celebrated, a few weeks ago, his 100th birthday. He has witnessed every New York Giant championship. He started watching games, in the Polo Grounds in Yankee Stadium. He's an American hero, 100 years young, and the best Giant fan out there. Please welcome Louis Lafresi. Well, we hope you enjoyed this walk through the history of the New York Football Giants as we embark upon season 100. Wow. And we've had so many great things that are lined up for you during the course of the season. Kickoff weekend, Hard Knocks coming out on July the 2nd. The top 100 players in the history of the franchise. The podcast will begin being released on July the 9th. and we will count down. Over 5,000 men have worn a New York Giants uniform. We have put together an independent blue ribbon panel that has selected the top 100 players in the history of the Giants. You can follow that all year long. So for this great list of champions, Hall of Famers, and once a Giant, always a Giant, New York Giants, thank you so much for kicking off Season 100, presented by Verizon.